My goodness gracious, it has been a while since I've done one of these. Many apologies. I'm sorry for the 14 of you that are actually going to be disappointed. Anyway, my name is Officer Dan, and this is my show that I call A Scotch and a Beer with Me. Basically, I'm regaling my tales of old, how I got into drifting, my trials, my tribulations, in the hopes that somebody somewhere might watch these and be like, okay, I'm not gonna make all the mistakes this guy made, and I'm really gonna get my shit together. Otherwise, it's a pretty entertaining story all the way back from the beginning. So if you haven't watched any of them, by all means, please head back 32 something episodes and check those suckers out. There might be something in there and you may learn a thing or two about a thing or three. Now, whilst I'm not going to get into the actual story, the meat and potatoes, if it were, I am going to kind of explain why I haven't been making these episodes. There's a couple of really potent reasons to me as to why I haven't been doing these and why I've been dreading getting back into it. And I'll go over those in just a little bit. But first, hence the title of this damn show, A Scotch and a Beer with Officer Dan. First off, I'm going to start off with the beer. Now, a very, very, very kind gentleman from Montana, and I went back through my damn Instagram messages and I tried to find your name and your Instagram handle. So please, if you do watch this, comment so I can add it to the YouTube description and so on and so forth. But I apologize in advance for losing that information. I had it written down on a sticky note on the beers, but it's been so long since I did this, I lost it. Many apologies, but he sent me a couple of 12 packs of different random beers, but he also sent me a 4-pack of these Kettlehouse Brewing Company Cold Smoke Scotch Ale, 6.5% alcohol by volume, little wonders. And I drank all 3 of them, and I've really been looking forward to the moment when I could finally drink this 4th one, because I wanted to save it for when I actually did a Scotch and a beer. And since this is a Scotch Ale, it's kind of both at the same time. But my God, that is a good beer. It's super sweet, it's super smooth, it's not super heavy. If I could ever find this again in my hometown, I will definitely be buying it post haste, and I highly recommend that you do the same. Thank you, Montana, for supporting these to me. I really appreciate it. As for the Scotch, I have a pretty interesting one. I finally donned my mask and went out into the public, and I went to Costco. And what did I find at Costco? Because I always go straight to the alcohol section just to see what they have. Sometimes they have $5,000 bottles of Louis the 14th, whatever the hell that kind of alcohol is, but they had a really interesting one. The Kirkland Signature 20-year Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey, distilled, matured, bottled in Scotland, sherry cask finish, done by Alexander Murray & Co., Aberdeen, Scotland. It's a house brand 20-year-old Scotch for $59. A 20-year-old Scotch that's $59 is, I guess, the Chinese knockoff of Wheels. It's unheard of. You just don't find that. It looks beautiful. The bottle's kind of plain. It doesn't come in a box. It's not fancy. So let's give it a try. I do like that price point, however. It says this Kirkland Signature 20-year-old Speyside single malt Scotch was aged in ex-bourbon barrels and finished for a maximum of 6 months in Oloroso sherry casks. The result is a whiskey that is golden in color with aromas of toasted brown sugar, complemented by notes of sherry. The finish is smooth and complex with a hint of dark chocolate. We shall see. This really reminds me of the beach. I don't know why. Maybe the salt air, maybe It does smell very sweet, but it does smell salty, and I can't really explain it, so we're going to give it a try. Wow! I may have to go buy another bottle of these because they didn't have very many of them left. That is an exquisite Scotch for $59. It's beautifully pungent, it's smooth, it's sweet, it's very sweet actually. I can definitely taste that dark chocolate. But my goodness gracious, is this a fine Scotch. Like, you could use this as a daily driver because it's not that expensive most of the time. 20-year Scotches are well above the 3-digit mark. So kudos to Costco for doing this and not making me have to buy 14 bottles of it at one time. That is a damn fine Scotch. Okay. So, first reason why I didn't want to kind of continue doing these and kind of put it on the side and kind of let life take its course, Drift Week burned me out. I was releasing daily content for a little over 2 weeks, and I'm not a vlogger. I never wanted to be a vlogger. I like to tell stories, but I never want to document what I'm doing. I'm not cut out for that. I wanted to do Drift Week in a different way, and it was really disheartening for me. As much as I really enjoyed being on the trip, it was not what I expected it to be. I expected friendship and camaraderie and good times, and like the drifting would kind of be a side note to the story of what we were doing as a group of these talented individuals. Well, some people were talented, not me. This group of talented individuals traveling the country together, doing the most insane stuff that you could imagine drift-wise. And what it ended up being was every single day, every single night, every single moment that we were there, basically, except for maybe one night.
Was there anything else?
It was people like this and people like this. Editing, filming. Like, you'd wake up in the morning and you'd go outside and you'd stretch, and there'd be 6 dudes out there with the cameras up doing their vlogs every single day. And I filmed literally the whole thing on my cell phone. Every single shot of every single video of all of Drift Week was all shot on my cell phone, and I'd be like, all right, here it is, and then I'd put it away and then go about my business. That happened every night for 14 days, basically. And by the end of the trip, it was just like, all right, well, I guess me and June are going to go out by ourselves because nobody else wants to go eat. Nobody wants to go do anything. Nobody wants to join in activities. Nobody wants to go go-karting. Everybody just wanted to sit around and edit their freaking goddamn content. And I'm not saying that's bad, because that's these guys' living. That's what they do for a living. For me, this trip was more fun to hang out with the bros. I got to see Chelsea, I got to see Matt, and I hadn't hung out with those guys in almost 4 years from when I was doing FD, so it was really good to see them. And they actually socialized and did stuff, and Matt kind of stayed away and kind of did his own thing for most of the trip. But it was nice to see those guys again. The rest of the time, it was just kind of like, all right, I guess we'll go to bed early. And like I said, I had a blast doing Drift Week. It was one of the most fun experiences that I've got to do. I'm signed up to go on the next one, which is going to be on the East Coast. I'm not exactly sure when, and I'm not exactly sure where. I don't have any of the details. I'm going to be in a completely different car that will hopefully make it the whole way instead of not even to the first round. That trip broke me in basically every way possible, mentally, physically, emotionally, and it broke my wallet. So I hope that this trip will be a little bit better. I want to be a little more prepared for it. I want to make the whole trip happen in the actual car that I brought to it instead of giving up and trailering after the first round. So we'll see if it's any different. There's supposed to be a lot more people on this one. There's supposed to be a lot more vloggers, but there's also supposed to be a really good mix of everyday Joes. So I'm pretty stoked on that. I love meeting new people. I love hanging out. I just like the group dynamic more than filming content. I do want to put out videos during Drift Week, but I'm definitely not going to bust my balls to do one every single day. I'm not going to be able to do that. Unless I bring a dedicated content guy with me. Crispy! I don't think that that's going to happen. But anyway, so on top of that, COVID was starting, which put a damper on pretty much everything that I was doing. The stunt work stopped. I had 50% of my income just gone. Luckily, GK Tech was starting to pick up. So kind of redoubling the efforts there and making sure to do more how-to videos and making sure that we were shipping orders very quickly. And everybody got $1,200, and thank you so very much for spending it on GK Tech. We absolutely love you. I hope everybody's car is super dialed because you basically got a year off to come to No Coast. No Coast is happening, so please come party with us with all those fresh new parts you just bought. So busy with GK Tech, busy with life, not busy with stunts. What else did I have going on? And I'm going to get into the main reason why I kind of stopped doing Scotch and a beer. I'm going to count this basically as season 2. I left off right as we started to build the car for Formula D. I loved all of that part. Like, I loved building the car. Long Beach was a huge turning point, and not in a very positive way for me. I dreaded and I absolutely hated everything that happened at Long Beach, and I didn't know how to spin it. I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. I didn't even want to think about how bad of an experience that actually was. I was shitty to some people, and some people were really shitty to me. It's kind of part of motorsports if you haven't noticed, but I really dreaded doing that episode because I don't like doing that. I don't like being negative towards people, and most of the stuff that I do on this show, I can spin in a positive light. I always try to look for the positive side of things, but Long Beach, there wasn't really much of a positive out of any of it. It basically shot my career in the foot before I even got to start. Like, that event and all of the events that happened at that event set the stage for everything that I would do in FD, and would ultimately end up making me fail miserably at it. Like, miserably at it. And that really bothers me. Like, when something like that happens, it really gets under my skin, and I beat myself up over it, and so I just decided to not talk about it. Like, I just pushed it aside and was just like, well, I guess that's where that's gonna end. But I do want to get back into it. I'm just gonna do a very high level of what happened. I'm not gonna go into super crazy details about it, but you'll get the gist of everything that went down at Long Beach. And then actually for the rest of the season after that, that tiny little snowball at Long Beach, we had all this momentum going up, we reached the peak, and that tiny little snowball turned into a football field sized mistake the rest of the way through. There's so much drama, and most of that was captured in the Whiskey Garage Chronicles, so you can check those out here, whichever site it pops up on, I don't know. But I will be going over everything that went on before, during, and after the Whiskey Garage Chronicles episodes that we didn't get to show in those because those were corporately sponsored videos. So I had to be on my best behavior and didn't let the real stories out. You got to see the drama, and you got to see what broke, and you got to see the disappointment, but you didn't get to see everything else that went around that. So I do want to explain all of those rounds of Formula D during 2014. So those are the three major reasons why I stopped doing Scotch and a beer. I didn't want to do it. I got burnt out from Drift Week, and GK Tech was ramping up. We were shipping more than we'd ever shipped before, and things were going a little bit crazy, so I decided to put life first and make that happen. On top of that, COVID's been pretty depressing overall. I hate social media, I hate hearing news, I hate basically everything that's going on in society today, and it really, again, gets to me and makes me not want to do stuff. Like I don't want to check Facebook, I don't want to check Instagram, I hardly post anymore, which I know I need to get better at. I just don't feel like it. So trying to get back into the swing of things with these videos. I'm going to explain a little bit as what's been going on the rest of this year, because we did Drift Week, and then I did a demo in El Paso with Forrest Wang, and was supposed to be Donovan Brockway, but ended up being the dude at Biker Skater from Instagram. Did a demo, but one of the dudes that was there hit a lady, and that was our last little piece of that demo for the day. Like, poor Forrest Wang and poor guys from San Francisco that drove 20-something hours down to do this demo in El Paso and got one set of laps in, and then that was it. Like, there was no more. There was just this tiny little demo, and Bob's your uncle. We all packed up and went home. And that was the last event before COVID lockdown started. Before you couldn't travel, before you were restricted to your house, before this, that, and the other. During that time period of absolutely nothing, when I wasn't posting, when I wasn't doing anything, I was out in my garage teaching myself to weld and do woodworking, and I'm actually building an off-road overlanding trailer. Scratch, actually from the Harbor Freight trailer that I flipped over and had to buy the new one in Abilene. I stole the axle off of that one, so I just had this frame just sitting there. So I modified the frame, cut it up, learned how to weld on it, and now I'm building the wooden box system for drawers, and it's going to be pretty cool. So during the COVID break, I would say, I taught myself to weld and do a little bit of woodworking, so I'm pretty stoked on that part of things. Which will carry over into being handy for drifting. Now I can weld my own stuff if there's a welder available and not have to rely on somebody else doing it. Awesome. It may not be pretty or look the best, but it will be a weld. Also got involved with an off-road race, my first ever off-road race. It was Cowboy Cerrone's BMF 50. He basically put up a post on Instagram, and I was like, well, the drift season's really sucked. I haven't been traveling. I've been stuck in New Mexico for way too long, and I'm not used to being in this state for so long. I'm used to leaving, then coming back, then leaving, then coming back, then leaving, then coming back. And it really makes this state much more enjoyable the more you leave and come back. And he posted this thing up, and Cowboy also does stunts. I've met him on a couple of shows. He's a really cool dude, and reached out and said, hey, can we do this race? And he was like, fuck yeah. And I was like, sick. we're in. So me and 4 other stunt guys decided to join in. We came up with a game plan. I bought a car from Bubba Price at ABQ Auto Brokers for $800. And we proceeded to put the sickest roll cage I've ever seen in that thing, welded up body armor, put in a fuel cell, racing seats, harnesses, and took out all the glass, and then proceeded to do a 50-mile off-road race with Cowboy at his ranch. So that was like a 4.5-week process of doing all of that, which I documented, and will also be a link here, maybe if I can find the spot in the video. Anyway, we did that. We didn't finish. We made it to our 4th driver, and the car died. Lost all spark. Still don't know what's wrong with it. We set the fastest lap of the day. Actually, I set the fastest lap on my 5th lap. Got used to the track, got used to the truck, and then was feeling in the groove, and each driver got 5 laps. So that was my last lap. So the fastest time on my last lap. I know I could have gone faster, but then had to give the car up, and the rest of our guys were going great. We were actually in 1st place by lap number 8, and we were maintaining between 1st and 3rd place. And I really think that we had a chance to actually take home a podium at least, and probably 1st place had the car been running. But Officer Dan's style, we didn't make it through the whole event. Could do really, really well. Our drivers were dialed. The truck was feeling great until it wasn't. And that's kind of the story of my life. But we had a ton of fun in these COVID times. It was a breath of fresh air. Man, I loved doing that. And it was so much fun just to mob a car off-road. Like off-road in the S13 sometimes, I feel really bad about it. But getting to do it purposefully for 10 miles was awesome. So I can totally understand why dudes are into off-road racing, because it's sick. I've also been running drift events. They kind of suck. Not allowed to have spectators. Driver count is down because I have to charge more money. It's not the way I ever wanted to run drift events. I like to have the spectators there to keep the cost for the drivers down, because the drivers are the ones putting on the show. So why should they have to pay for that? So I'm having to charge double what I normally charge for my drift events, and everybody's really kind of bummed out about everything. No Coast is still on. I am supposed to put the pre-orders up in 2 days, and I still don't know what the track wants me to charge people. Anyway, No Coast is happening. Each driver gets 6 crew. Take that as you will. There's still going to be bands. Shh. There's still going to be a party. We're still going to freaking send it. And because this is a drivers only event, I think I'm going to be able to run 2 tracks at the same time, which is kind of unheard of at No Coast. So kind of excited for that. I'm also excited not to babysit 1,200 people for 3 days. It's not my favorite thing to do. So if you do come to No Coast, we would love to have you. Just make sure that you are a crew member with the driver. So if you do want to come to No Coast, link up with a driver and become part of their crew, and come on in. The water's great. We're going to practice safe social distancing. Everybody should have masks on. Most of the tandems aren't going to be within 6 feet, so we ain't got to worry about that. Which leads me up to where I am in my life right now. Building a 1969 Volkswagen bus for the Grateful Dead Chinatown Marketplace, and Donut Media. For those of you that haven't seen the video that I did on the Puma van that I made in North Carolina with Scotty, that was pretty sick. They liked that one so much, they decided to hire me to build another van again, this time a bus and more of a restoration project, which I'm really good at ruining things, probably not so good at building things, but we're going to change all of that. And I'm going to build a Grateful Dead themed hippie bus. Not build, I would say, more remodel. I guess it's more of a remodel. Interior, exterior wrap, etc., etc. And they're going to use it as a mobile pop-up shop to sell Grateful Dead merch. Now, forgive me if I couldn't name a Grateful Dead song. I have 2 Grateful Dead albums that I've been listening to kind of get into the mood, and that's where I sit as we speak. So I'm currently in the middle of that project. It will be out on Donut Media and Chinatown Marketplace's social media outlets, I guess you could call them. And yeah, so I just wanted to catch up with everyone, see how you're doing. If you've been doing some cool stuff, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. I want to know what everybody has been doing during the COVID. Talk to me, people. I'm lonely out here. And that's where this episode is going to end. It's been great catching up with everybody again. I hope to release another episode soon. Don't know if it's going to be next Monday because I'm going to be hard and heavy into this Grateful Dead van build. As I kind of get relaxed and no coast is planned out and everything's good to go, I'll probably drop another episode then, and that will be the continuation of the story. So, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Scotch and a Beer with Officer Dan. Thank you so very much for watching. Thank you for watching any of the stuff that I put out. I know I'm not very good at keeping on a schedule, so I appreciate every single view that I can get. I'll catch you guys on the flip side, and until then, go grab yourself a freaking 20-year Speyside single malt Scotch from Costco for $59. Officer Dan out.